On the first day, man was granted a soul, and with it, clarity. On the second day, upon earth was planted an irrevocable poison. A soul-devouring demon. Dark Souls is a name that brings many images to mind for many people. You died, waifus, insane difficulty, impossibly complex side quests, satisfying challenges, impossible challenges, but most of all, this series is Hidetaka Miyazaki taking out his sadistic urges on masochistic players, and I love it. The production of the game was incredibly challenged from the get-go with no coherent vision on how a game like this would work. So, From Software brought on a different designer for the project, a coder for the famous series Armored Core. From Software basically gave him free reign, he could take any direction he wanted, and he chose something with the cruelty of ghouls and ghosts, but the physical comedy of Tom and Jerry. They worked on the game for 3 years with a simple idea in mind. He was very tired of the hand-holdy nature of video games at this time. In fact, they didn't talk about the difficulty of the game at all when they were hyping it up before release. Players who started the game for the first time were in for a hell of a surprise. In fact, it was intended to be harder than it already was. Death was going to be permanent. But even Sony had to step in and tell the man, "Dear God, no, you cannot do that!" In 2008, the game was playable in a demo form at the Tokyo Game Show, and it was considered to be a disaster, as the game is pretty hard if you don't know what you're doing. In fact, Sony's president played the first level of the game for 2 hours and couldn't get through it, simply believing it to be poor quality, calling it, and I'm quoting this, an unbelievably bad game. Due to the poor reception, Sony initially decided against localizing the game, yet Sony still made English files for it, as well as the baffling decision that all of the game's audio was in English, in Japan. That's fucking wild. I thought this was just going to be a paragraph, but the development is so interesting. I've seen a lot of videos talking about this game, but no one goes into the full extent of the chaos that is this development cycle. Like, the original dialogue was going to be more archaic than it already is. If you've never tried following a side quest in a Souls game, that is a frightening sentence, as following any questline in a game that isn't Elden Ring involves a guide, because holy shit, these quests are so archaic. Once the game finally released, it was quite well received, getting 9s across the board. Opening weeks of the sales were 39,000, selling about 95% of the initial release batch and selling out in several stores. Word of mouth spread with people talking about how hard the game is and how refreshing the challenge was, overall resulting in sales of 134,585 copies. Atlus joined on for licensing of the game in the West, but due to the initial low sales, they predicted a sales area of around 75,000 copies. So the initial release was going to be 15,000 copies, so word of mouth kicked in again, leading to even more massive sales. In the first month, it hit 150,000 sales. By March of 2010, 250,000 units. The US release single-handedly led to Sony releasing the game again under the Greatest Hits moniker that led to the game blowing up to 500,000 units. When it released in the UK, the game consistently sold out, leading it to be very difficult to obtain, with overall sales of 1 million copies? Jesus, that's more than the rest of the world combined! So yeah, the game sold like hotcakes everywhere else. Demon Souls led to Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, and Sekiro, but no Demon Souls. Dark Souls 1 got remastered, 2 got an inferior remake called Scholar of the First Sin, but no Demon Souls. The PS4 is entering the end of its life, and the PS5 is on the horizon. Then it happens. June 11th, 2020. We are deep in quarantine, and a trailer surprise drops. Demon Souls is back! With pristine graphics, amazing music, and one of the best teams for Remake at the helm, Blue Pointy Games, it seems like nothing can go wrong. What do you mean there's not enough PS5s? Scalpers are selling them for double? What a bunch of douche canoes. I swear, scalping should be an illegal practice, but that's not here or there. I got my PS5 in June of 2021. I had to watch websites religiously for months to finally get one from Best Buy with a copy of Demon Souls Remake. This was my first exposure to the game, and I fucking love it. To this day, this might be my most replayed Souls game in a franchise where I have over 200 hours in every game. I could make a whole video just talking about the changes to this game and the utter insanity of the development cycle, but instead I'm going to recommend that when you're done with this video, to watch a documentary in the description from NoClip about the team that made it. The work they put into this is insane. There are separate walk cycles depending on your weight, gender, and weapon type that you're carrying. They didn't need to do that, but they did. Sales-wise, surprisingly, it actually did a little worse than the PS3 with only 1.4 million copies in 2021. But for now, that's enough video game history. Let's play the game. Cue the stream. We make a Temple Knight and make him look cool as hell even if he is quite old, with a brilliant name to match that will ring fear into every demon who dare crosses him. Vidya Essay. The following cutscene plays with amazing voice acting.
King Alant XII, by channeling the power of souls, brought unprecedented prosperity to his northern kingdom of Boletaria. That is, until the colorless deep fog swept across the land. Boletaria was cut off from the outside world, and those who dared penetrate the deep fog never returned. But Valarfax of the royal Twin Fangs broke free from the fog and told the world of Boletaria's plight. That the old King Alant had aroused the Old One, the great beast below the Nexus, from its eternal slumber, and that a colorless fog had swept in, unleashing terrible demons. The demons hunt down men and claim their souls. Those who lose their souls also lose their minds. The mad attack the sane, and chaos reigns. Valarfax spoke of the enticing power of the demon souls. Each time a demon claims a human soul, the demon's own soul is invigorated by the life force. And the power of a mature demon's soul is beyond human imagination. The legend spread quickly. Mighty warriors were drawn to the accursed land, but none have returned. Bjor of the Twin Fangs, Yurt the Silent Chief, Sage Urbane, Skurver the Wanderer, the Sixth Saint Astraea and her knight Garl Vinland, and Sage Frake the Visionary. The colorless deep fog slowly creeps beyond Boletaria's borders. Humankind faces a slow and steady extinction. The deep fog will eventually swallow all lands near and far. But Boletaria has one final hope. A lone warrior who has braved the baneful fog. Has the land found its savior? Or have the demons found a new slave?
And from here, we start. We are dropped into the tutorial level, the outpost passage, and are allowed to get acquainted with our character's move. We can roll, stab harder, and parry so that we can wreck ass in the most wonderful of ways. These parry animations are so sexy. I mean, just look at how we fuck up this Blue Knight's day! Anyways, point aside, we make our way through and encounter our first boss, the Vanguard Demon. This is a pretty easy fight so long as you stick to its ass and don't get greedy, then you'll be perfectly I may have forgotten an essential move in the Demon Soul skill set. Dying. So, I didn't exactly beat the boss, but I almost did. If you did, then you'd get a secret cutscene where the Dragon God from the opening cutscene fucks your shit up. This puts me in the Nexus, the location of the opening cutscene mentioned that housed the Old One down below. A woman in black bandage with wax over her eyes tells us that if we wish to break free, we must slay a demon, and the only way we can do that is through Archstones. By capturing a demon's souls, we can reclaim our corporeal body. And that's one of Demon Soul's biggest gimmicks, body mode versus soul mode. If you're in soul mode, your health is capped at 50%, but you can't be invaded. On the other hand, in body mode, you can engage in jolly cooperation, have all of your health bar, but if you die, your world tendency will go down. We'll get into that in a bit. As for now, it's time for the Gates of Boletaria. Side note, but I love the PS5's load times. The only loading screen is this screen of fog, and you only see it for about a second or two at a time. God damn, this game looks so good. But now it's time for the real tutorial. Demon Souls does not have the grace of bonfires from the Further Souls game. You will get one Archstone and you're gonna like it. This area is pretty straightforward as far as Soulsborne levels go. We meet one of our most important NPCs, Ostrava, whom, if we had followed his questline, you would have learned he's the king's son, who's come back to kill the king for allowing this corruption. But we didn't, so you don't get to learn that. We do, however, find two very important rings, the Thief Ring and the Cling Ring. When in soul form, never take the Cling Ring off, as it'll increase your max HP to 75%. Don't be stupid like me, and take it off while you're in body form. One dragon on a bridge encounter later, and a tower full of weird slime shields, and we're on to the next boss, the Phalanx. This is the first riddle of the game, as it has a neat little tendency. Demon Souls put hints in every level to the boss's weakness. Notice all those firebombs? Maybe you should try them on the Phalanx. Kill all her hoplites and it opens up her weird, squishy body. Once Ulan is dead, your physical body is restored and you can use the Archstone to return to the Nexus. The Lady in Black lets us know that the Monumental awaits us above, so we need to climb... Oh, these... Why are there so many fucking stairs? Once we're done with Hell, we find the Monumental. Tiny baby man that he is, he gives us the following lore drop cutscene.
In the distant past, under a benevolent rule, the world was united, owing to the soul arts. Until a lust for power caused the awakening of the Old One. Across the land seeped a colourless, deep fog, and the world faced extinction at the hands of the demons. Thanks be, we were able to lull the Old One back to his slumber, yet only after the loss of innumerable souls, and half the world lost, erased by the fog. In order to mend the fabric of what land still remained, we entrusted 6 elders with 6 precious archstones. 1 to the king of a small yet diligent land. 1 to the king of the burrowers underground. 1 to the wise queen of the great ivory tower. 1 to the chieftain of lost and ill-fortuned souls. 1 to the shaman of the tempest-worshipping shadowmen. And the last to the great giants of the northern lands. The archstones were placed at nodes across the earth. We contained the Old One inside this nexus and banned the soul arts. Finally, we became monumentals, half-living sentinels of the fabric of reality. Alas, the other monumentals have perished, and only I remain. Now it is your turn. You must lull the Old One back to its slumber, and seal it away for all eternity. If not, the deep fog will absorb all that we know. Have you the strength to accept this mission? Yes, I see. That is unfortunate. You should know that you will be imprisoned in the Nexus forever. Just like the poor Candle Maiden.
If we don't lure the Old One to sleep, the fog will spread, it will get worse, and all of humanity will die. This is our job. Typically, I would throw myself from the top of the Nexus in a fit of suicidal grief so I can enter soul mode, but this time I was trying to challenge myself by staying in human form when I could. World tendency be damned, I will get to you, just not right now. For now, we can level up through the Lady in Black and enter any archstone of our choice. Now, it's recommended you do it in the simple order of 1-1, 1-2, 2-1, 3-1, so on and so forth, because the difficulty scales with each level. Instead, I bum rush through level 4-1 for a good weapon, yet not our weapon for the run, and die many times to the skeletons as they too bum rush us to death. 7 minutes of attempts later, and we get it. A Crescent Falchion +1. Now we can start level 1-2. Azrael, no! So the streamer was stupid and decided to start level 2-1 as they really wanted to get the weapon for the run. So we enter the smithing grounds. This is a great location to grind for weapon upgrade materials. Unfortunately, we didn't need any materials and I spent a little too long collecting materials for a potential weapon. Start to dive deeper into the mines, activate our shortcut, meet a blacksmith, and then you're onto the boss of level 2-1. The Armored Spider— oh fuck that! Arachnophobia aside, this boss isn't so bad. He has a long tunnel up ahead of him. You have to make your way down, avoiding the fire he spits, the web he shoots, and avoid his claws as you get close enough to whack his pee-pee, and until he turns into mist, giving you more souls and plenty of trauma that a therapist will get rich off of. Now we're gonna level up and start level 1-2. Azrael, I swear to God! The Tunnel City. Long, complicated series of tunnels with the correct option being to carefully throw yourself down a pit and find the next boss. Now, this next boss. We spent 2.5 hours fighting him, because I was convinced I wanted my weapon and I wanted it now. The Flame Lurker is the hardest boss in the game. Very fast, very aggressive, with AoEs on every hit. I tried everything. I used a shield. I got naked. I may have even cried at one point. I ran out of healing materials and had to try and get by with one heal from my MP that I had available to me. Eventually, I got it because I was making a very simple mistake. I was locking on. This limits your rolls, so I decided to play it safe. Went in after every slam to attack 2 to 3 times, then got away. Finally, we beat him, level up, and start level 2-3, the Underground Temple. This level holds perhaps the most famous boss in this game, the Dragon God. He is instantly recognizable from the opening cutscene, and if you manage to meet Vanguard, this becomes a story of revenge. For us, this is just another Tuesday. The puzzle isn't too hard on this one. You gotta hide behind some pillars, break obstacles in your way, and shoot him in the shoulder. Hide behind the pillars on the lower level, avoid his fire, and shoot him in the other arm. We use the Hands of God we found in the previous level to kill this god for a trophy, and we complete our first Archstone. Once you have killed an Archdemon, we get the option to run to the final boss of level 1 if we really want to. But what we need right now is in 4-1, the Island's Edge. We found out that the Gods of Hands are actually quite useful in this level, as the Skelebros are quite weak to fist damage, and these fists do magic damage. Find our arch-nemesis, the Vanguard Demon, and internally swear revenge, and we totally didn't forget to kill him, we just realized revenge is bad. His life is inherently valuable, so that's why we didn't come back. We make our way down the side path avoiding crystalline fire from manta rays in the sky and find the next boss, the Adjudicator. He is very interestingly designed, with a massive tongue and a big golden bird on top giving him commands. If you're a ranged character, this is a very easy boss. If you don't, then don't worry. This is a very easy boss. Get down on the ground and attack his stomach wound. Enough times of pulling a Sam Raimi and poking Bruce Campbell with a stick, and he'll fall, giving us access to his bird thing? He dies and gives us the most important soul in the game for our purposes, the Swollen Demon Soul. Go back to level 2-1 and create the weapon for this run, the Meat Cleaver. Now, this fucking weapon, this piece of shit is so overpowered in ways that I had not ever considered. The stats are incredibly fucking low at 26 strength and 16 faith with an S scaling and dex and strength. This thing doesn't even use dex, but if you put the soft cap on both, the physical damage becomes absurd. Not only is the physical damage high, it does magic damage. It can be buffed with items or spells. It restores HP on every hit and cannot be upgraded. You only need a +0 to weapon to make this thing, and it jumps to the equivalency of +15 right off the bat. It is frankly absurd that you can get this weapon so easily. Now that we have the weapon for our run, we can finally get onto level 1-2, the Lord's Path. This level is pretty straightforward. You run down a bridge and try to avoid dragon's fire along the way. Our weapon quite easily decimates any enemy in our way, as this is the second level of the game. Once we reach the end with minimal burns on our ass, we approach the next boss fight, the Tower Knight. This boss fight is pretty simple. You apply chip damage to the 63 damage? Okay, that's gotta be the consistent number all around. So you knock the knight down and smack his head. 503 damage! Holy shit, I've been sleeping on this weapon! But that's day 1. Day 2 will be continued immediately. Level 4-2, the Ritual Path. This is probably my personal favorite level in the game. It's very moody and filled with various varieties of enemies, as well as occasionally going into a stormy aesthetic with manta rays shooting their crystals at you. We drop down and interact with the best grinding spot in the game. If you kill these Grim Reaper enemies, then they kill every skeleton in the room and you get tons of souls for it. We step into this back room as I thought I'd need a certain NPC, so I meet Patches. This man is the slimiest NPC you're ever going to meet in a Souls game. If you meet him, you are not too far off from being kicked down a pit. So, with a foot planted firmly in our ass, we land down in this small cave and meet Saint Urban. You see, in Demon Souls, you can trade Demon Souls to certain magic teachers for powerful spells. I was hoping to get Cursed Weapon, which is similar to Dark Souls' Power Within, as I wanted to build a glass cannon, but it turns out I chose the wrong teacher altogether. You don't need Saint Urban, no. You don't even need Sage Freak. No. You need Yuria the Witch, an NPC I have never met. So this was all for nothing. Kill the Black Phantom in your way, freeing him, because you're such a nice person. Make your way down this cave and encounter a cavern with some really bright slugs before our next boss fight. The old hero. The puzzle for this one is pretty simple. He's blind. So if we put on the thief ring and smack him in the ankles, he'll never see it come- shit, I mean, he never saw me- fuck, Did you know you're blind? Now then, 4-3, the Altar of Storms. This is probably the most audibly pleasing level in the entire game. Unfortunately, my audio came out kinda choppy for some reason, so I can't give you the proper experience, but I implore you to watch the cutscene for this with some headphones on. This is a gimmick boss for sure. You run through a hellfire of manta rays shooting crystals at you to the very center of the circle shrine for our weapon this fight, the Storm Ruler. This sword is incredibly cool and will get referenced again in Dark Souls 3. You slice through the heavens themselves to cut down manta rays and eventually the Storm King, and with that is another archdemon down. Level 3-1, the Prison of Hope. This level is out of a horror movie. Mind flayers roam the halls, screams of anguish, and it's kind of controversial, but in the remake of this level, you can hear singing throughout the prison, but instead of the 2 notes that she sang in the original when she got close, she's singing a song that we'll hear at the end of the game. I personally like it, as it almost seems to render the prisoners brain dead, keeping them docile. A lot of this level is just running from various floors looking for keys that will open up more locked doors. We run past Sage Freak as I was convinced I needed Saint Urban, like an idiot, and we get down to the bridge, where a giant crossbow opens up. I try to get cocky for stream and roll across the bridge, but I fuck it up. So, thoroughly humbled, I do it the right way, climbing up a tower and running all the way down. I kill a tier 3 simp who will keep reviving the boss if left alive. Then it's on to the real boss, the Fool's Idol. The boss has a neat gimmick, as she breaks him into clones, and there are multiple ways to tell who the real one is. You can see who shoots the large magic blast, you can see who the simps worship, or if you're like me, you can lock on and see which one doesn't have a health bar. Avoid the magic, avoid the traps, and this boss goes down in no time. No obvious way opens up to the next level, so we approach the altar and, hey, wait, why does the cleaver sit on my back like that? Oh god, wait, what are you doing, please? No! Oh god! My spleen! Level 3-2, Upper Latria. This is where we really start getting into the eldritch horror side of Demon Souls. This level is full of stone gargoyles, a giant heart with hands, and some particularly unsavory enemies down below. We start making our way through the level, cutting down gargoyles and getting invaded by one thick booty boy who goes down in 2 swings. If you're watching this video somehow, you are a worthy opponent. We continue the run through the level, killing gargoyles and getting a 1.8% chance drop on the gargoyle's crossbow thanks to some streamer luck, and we take down the simps that are guarded around the first chain. We make our way down a step and find a mysterious man in a cage, Yurt, the Silent Chief. If we allow this man to live, he will kill every NPC in the Nexus, and I'm convinced we need Saint Urban still, so we show him the sharper side of our cleaver. We ride his cage down to the Blood Swamp and find the previously mentioned unsavory enemies. Weird piles of pustules, boils, and human faces on insect bodies with scorpion tails. If Lovecraft weren't horribly racist, he'd probably be proud of Miyazaki for his representation of an eldritch abomination. Climb our way up again to another set of simps around a chain and cut them down, freeing the chain. The heart falls and... what do you mean that heart is full of those things? Oh god. Talk about heartworms. Mild puking aside, the way to the next boss is now open to us. climb a comically large and impractical spiral staircase when you find our next adversary, the Man-Eaters. No, not the Nelly Furtado song. These are like homunculus creatures who have human faces, gorilla-like bodies, wings, and a snake tail. So it's closer to a chimera, I suppose. And this fight can get really funny. See, the boss can fly around anywhere it wants, but the issue is, the AI sucks. It'll fly around for a few seconds at a time, so you're stuck just waiting for it to approach so you can try to kill it before the second one approaches. On my first playthrough, this fight was legitimately tough for me. However, it was my own fault as I was using a +1 Crescent Falchion, and I had no idea where to get upgrade materials. So I just kept pushing myself against a brick wall. And now we're doing 338 damage per swing. Granted, we are using the Master Swing, which increases damage on good swings, but it's a gamble in itself to use, as swings that aren't in the sweet spot will do less damage. Now it's time for level 3-3, the Ivory Tower. And if you thought the last staircase was bad, this one is not as long. However, it does have enemies along the staircase that are tougher to kill with these narrow hallways, which can result in your weapon bouncing. This, however, is my favorite boss in the game, the Old Monk. This boss fight is very unique and was replicated in the Ringed City DLC of Dark Souls 3 with Half-Light Gundyr. You can get an NPC boss, but if you have an online connection, then you get a random player as your boss fight. The guy we got on the first 2 encounters really kicked my ass, but in the end, we managed to meet Papa Lunartic in one-on-one combat. If you're somehow watching this, thanks for serving me my humble pie. However, I wasn't done here. I decided I wanted to be the boss. So I loaded up some invasions and took on players. Our first one was pretty amateur, heavy rolling and went down with a backstab. Our second attempt at it, however, got me the hat, as they died climbing the stairs. I decided to call it there as I got our prize, which has a very unique feature, as it covers your vision entirely, stopping you from seeing anything on screen. We did not de-equip this for the rest of the game. Now, onto the worst levels of the game. 5-1, the Depraved Chasm. This level is all rickety platforms, enemies bum rushing you to apply poison, and swarms of enemies. With our cleaver, we didn't have to worry about it too much, but we did die a few times to some toxic racks and falling boulders. Finally clawing our way through and buying turpentine from a kind old lady, we meet the next boss, Leechmonger. We apply our turpentine and deal a large chunk of its health bar immediately. How is this weapon still this strong in the end of the goddamn game? Jesus! 5-2, the Swamp of Sorrow. Blighttown's older brother, but with better frame rate, even on PS3. However, thanks to a certain leader of the Firebomb Academy, I've learned a little trick here. Hug the right wall, don't bother with enemies, just walk in the swamp. If you found them, keep the Regenerator's Ring, the Poison Bite Ring, and the Adjudicator's Shield for a stronger poison resistance, and passive healing that outdoes the poison damage being done to you. Eventually, you're going to hit a large platform where you'll find the same old woman. I stocked on more turpentine, and continued hugging the right wall till we hit the next big area. We activated the shortcut so we don't have to do that again, and took on the boss of 5-2, the Dirty Colossus. Tall, imposing, and with a Jack Skellington head on his shoulder, he's quite weak to fire. I chose to just wail on him until he died. Now then, 5-3, the Rotting Haven. Most people wouldn't guess this, but the boss of this world is the most evil NPC in the entire game, the Maiden Estrella and her loyal knight, Garl Vinland. This is one of the only lore dumps I'm going to go into here, but this comes from soulslore.wiki. The Maiden is a tall blonde woman who works to help the plague-stricken and diseased inhabitants of the Valley of Defilement. Her bodyguard, Garl Vinland, is her only form of offense and defense. Maiden Estrella, also called the Sixth Saint Estrella, who was raised a pure and perfect follower of God from birth to a noble home. When she traveled to the valley in an effort of relief, she felt genuine pity for the poor and abandoned living there, working for many years in their service. However, over time, she began to lose her faith in a god who would allow such suffering to exist. She decided that the only true way to heal the pain of the people of the valley was for her to accept the demonhood itself. Becoming an archdemon and ruling over the land with her still human companion Garl Vinland. In showing the people kindness, she had amassed a large cult of followers who worshipped her with slavish devotion, willing to offer her everything in exchange for her salvation. Unfortunately, the maiden who came from a background of privilege herself believed her vision of relief to be the only option, and her actions in turn changed the valley for the worse. To end their pain, Maiden Estrella would perform the actions of a true demon, taking the souls from her followers, and thus their ability to properly think and feel, effectively lobotomizing them. both evidenced by dialogue from the filthy woman and the many corpses in the humans of the area, mainly women. Maiden Estrella's followers began to kill those not following her as they desired, offering the corpses up to the archdemon along with the souls they carried. In her boss arena, the bodies of knights are stacked high around her, many wearing the Mirrodin scale armor of the Church of God, from which Estrella originally hailed, as the church refused to believe their saint would abandon them in such manner. Though her actions came from a place of good, will, and pity, they lacked the empathy to understand the importance of the lives of those beneath her, and she sees her effectively wiping out the valley's culture and population as a mercy killing. Even her repeated instance that if they were only left alone, the people of the Valley of Defilement would do no harm to the wider world rings false, given that the souls she collects inevitably help the Old One in destroying everything. In the end, her altruism is flawed and dangerous, creating a monster from a place of innocence and virtue. As the text for the miracle death cloud that is created from her soul states, Estrella, who willingly accepted the corrupted and corroded, naturally has become the most corrupted of them all. This fight is pretty easy and has multiple ways to handle it. You can go through the swamp below full of dead children, but you'll get toxic. Proceed and Garl Vinwin will attack you, as well as her using Wrath of God. You can hit her from range with a bow, but she will heal over time. Or, if you beat her loyal servant, she will ingest the soul of a demon and die, effectively killing herself in grief. It's at this point most players become aware they're not fully the heroes of this story. If ingesting that soul was enough to kill her, what about all the souls you've taken in? Are we any better than demon? And the game does kind of answer this. One of the bosses at the end will actually refer to you as a demon, meaning every time you level up, you forsake your humanity just a little more. So the only way to really finish this game as a human is soul level 1, and unless you use magic, I'm gonna pass on that one. Level 1-3, the Inner Ward. This level is pretty reminiscent of the first, but it sets up the boss fight from the get-go. A fat official who taunts you through the entire level. You chase it through the inner pavilion of the city, and we don't see Estrava because we didn't help him level 1-2 because I wanted to get this video out. So, we approach the next fog wall to a boss. The fat official is standing there. It's time for the— what the who are you? This is the real boss of the level. The Penetrate. I hate that name. It sounds very sexually charged, like they changed Sticky White Stuff to Sticky White Slime, but they couldn't change him to his lore name, which is Metis the King's Sword. It'd be a small change in a remake full of big changes, so I don't see why they couldn't just— my spleen! I just— fix that! Penetration wounds aside, this boss is not that bad. Apply your magic to our weapon. By the way, we got magic. Dodge carefully, because shields are for wimps, and the boss will fall pretty easily. This is it though. The Big Cheese. The final level of Demon Souls. 1-4, the King's Tower. This level starts with a strange twist. You have to fight Black Phantoms of King Alon's most trusted warriors. Longbow Ulan, Alfred the Tower, and Metis the King's Sword. Each one drops a unique weapon for their boss fight, but none of these quite serve our purposes. Having hit pure white tendency in World 1, we go back to 1-1 and pick up some snazzy armor that ultimately proved too heavy for us to wear, but we did keep it around for cutscenes. I forgot to mention it, but world tendency shifts the way your world is. In pure white or pure black, certain events will happen, but that's not all. In pure white, enemies don't hit you as hard, but they don't drop as many souls. And in pure black, red phantoms will invade, enemies will hit harder, but you will get more souls for your efforts. Back in 1-4, we avoid some more dragon's fire, and we make our way up to a chamber before the King's Tower, and there is the ghost of Estrava. We take him down with ease, receiving his sword and shield. They won't serve us any purpose, but they are probably good weapons. Maybe next playthrough. And now, the longest elevator ride in history.
I give my life, not for honor, but for you.
Very top of the tower sits him, King Alant. This is the most even fight we've had in this game, and he even gets in a special attack that is quite dirty. If he can grab onto you, he will drain a soul level from you, which, if he chooses the wrong stat, could totally undo your entire build, which is an unsettling thought. It's the closest I've come to struggling since Flamelurker, but like all lesser demons, he falls to my hands. A voice echoes in the room. It appears our job isn't quite done yet. There's one more. We must return to the Nexus. I just want to say, if you have made it this far, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, like, check out my Patreon. Thank you, let's get back to it. The lady in black greets us. The way forward is clear, and she takes us with her, below the Nexus itself. And there it lies, the old one. Shapeless, unrecognizable, covered in unknowable symbols. The lady in black manages to beckon it down to us, and we have no choice. We must go inside, to the heart of the beast. Donning our armor, we break through tree branches that are centuries old. In the center of the beast lies the true monster, King Alant. He is frail, weak, the right amount of limbs, yet too many eyes, wriggling masses on its body. It's clear this one has been around for too long. He may be the strongest demon, but he hasn't faced the horrors I have. I am the superior demon. We bring him down, and the lady in black tells us to leave, but how can we? This power, it could be ours. But no. Despite being a demon, we are still human. So we leave, wherever our adventure may take us next, to take down the next big evil. For the souls of demons are ever nourishing, and I'm starving.